a little bit difficult for me to imagine that another country could be prepared for this kind of war without having the experience or even the insight that Ukraine has.
Let's not be coy about it. We are in some kind of war already with Russia. They are attacking us with cyber operations. They are trying to, and have been, undermining the democratic processes in the West. And of course, they're conducting a full-scale war against Ukraine, a nation that is on our most eastern flank, right up against the Russians. But they are also conducting penetrations of NATO airspace as part of probing operations. All of this is adding up to a sense that perhaps fairly soon we may actually have to confront Russian troops on the ground. And in that context, there's a lot to learn from Ukraine. But I've been speaking to Ukrainians and other international volunteers on the ground who are operating against the Russians, and they are telling me that NATO forces and British forces within that have a long way to go before they incorporate the lessons that are being learned on the battlefields of today.
Do you think that they're ready for the next war with Russia?
No, I'm honestly a little bit terrified, because I think that first of all, no one is ever prepared for a war like this.
Now, Rebekah is a veteran of nearly 4 years of combat in Ukraine, and her analysis just of the medical challenges, I think, are very, very revealing, because she has had NATO training, and in her view, it really did not account for reality.
No, I think if you were to talk to military officials, they would reassure you that everything is under control, they're well equipped, they're well prepared. But I don't think anyone can be prepared for a conflict like this. I don't think anyone can. And what's concerning to me is, while they're offering these trainings, which I'm very grateful for, like these allied forces are offering trainings to the Ukrainians, I think it would do them well to also take some information and training from the Ukrainians. Just for example, when I went to a NATO training, the factor of drones was not really filtered in. It was very much the tactics that were learned in the previous war. And these tactics now do not apply, because you're not making like a linear assault. Everything has changed with drones. And I don't think it was factored in, at least not in this training. When I talked to the other soldiers as well.
You mean the Ukrainian soldiers?
Yeah, who have also gone to training. We've kind of like discussed experiences. There are some really good benefits from these trainings, but in general, all of the tactics don't reflect the updated conflict.
What kind of changes have you seen?
Massive changes. In the beginning of the war, you had more basic wounds, like we didn't really have this problem with FPV drones. We had a lot of like artillery wounds, in and out clean bullet wounds, and so on. Now the wounds, the injuries are catastrophic, and they're multiplying because the radius of impact for, let's say, a drone drops a grenade or explosive device, it's a massive radius of impact. So you can have an entire group that's taken out, all of them injured in one drop. We're not seeing that hand-to-hand combat so much now. And the wounds are very complex. It's a little bit difficult for me to imagine that another country could be prepared for this kind of war without having the experience or even the insight that Ukraine has. I'm actually really proud of the guys, because even my drone boys, my artillery boys, my grenade launchers, my infantry boys, all of them are excellent medics. They're excellent. They're not listed as a medic, but they can do all the medical care. They practice. They learn about everything that's in their first aid kit. They do so many simulations. So when they go to the position, when they're in the combat position, when someone is wounded, they are immediately providing aid.
She's going out of her way to be polite, but the upshot of all of this is that it is urgent, I think, for NATO officers to try to incorporate the lessons learned and incorporate actual Ukrainians inside NATO as part of their forward planning. Now, Ukraine, ironically, has applied for NATO membership. That so far is being rejected, and indeed it is cited regularly by Russia as a reason for its original full-scale invasion in February 2022. But the truth of the matter is, it is becoming increasingly clear that NATO needs Ukraine as much as Ukraine needs NATO.
So we're using drones, and we are dropping medical supplies with the drones. We can take a kind of an inventory of what the wounds are, what the condition is. We actually even have sometimes a thermometer, a pulse oximeter. We can drop that in as well and get kind of feedback on what's going on. Let's say this is an injury and the injured are staying a long time in the position, we can send antibiotics. But my soldiers also know when they're wounded to take their pill pack, which is in their personal first aid kit. Because the quicker they take it after injury, the lower the risk of infection.
When you've been doing medical training with NATO forces, are they aware of all of these new techniques that you're developing?
No, and I think what was actually kind of alarming to me was, for example, when we went through the medical training portion of my NATO training, it was, to put it nicely, it was sorely lacking. I think one of the biggest things that worries me is the rigid structure of training. This is the way it is. This is the way we've always done it. This is the way we're going to continue to do it. That's not war. We have to adapt. If we don't adapt, we die. We have to adapt.